Yeah. I can I'm the vote. And I heard that with connected what was kids do. And like, yeah,
Sketchy? What do you mean sketchy?
Yeah. Like this. That means a lot to somebody else.
Yes.
You have the photo strategy.
I'm not doing mine. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. I'm just not ready to hear this tonight. Got here late. They're right here. You see them here? What's that?
Welcome. Before I start anything for the meeting, I want to read this letter because I'll forget to do it later. It's a thank you note from the Kiwanis Club. On behalf of the Kiwanis Club of Valparaiso, we wish to express our sincere appreciation for your support of the 7th annual Salute to the Recruits program. Your generous contribution of $500 assisted with meals for the recruits and their parents and loved ones. As you may know, this is the only program available to our new enlistees within a 150-mile radius of our wonderful city. And we were honored to recognize them with your help. It was an awesome program, but Jim and Ellen can attest to that too. Of course, Ellen and I had tears looking at those young men who are so brave and enlisting in a time like this. Okay, and thank you to our greeters and women. And women. There was one, wasn't there? Sorry. Andy Moats, thank you for being our money handler today. Don Kroger is going to come up a minute and introduce our guests and give the invocation. Thanks to Greg Farrell for social media. And let's start with the pledge and the national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, see, all the dogs, was so proud of at this wide rise, whose sunshines were like stars, who the waves, or the rapids, were so gallantly pleased. There is a glare amongst the sea. They grew that our flag was still. Oh, you say Thomas has our life never had away. Oh, the land we walk out free, and the hope of our brain. Dawn. And welcome to Denise, Dr. Bill, Kevin, Kathy, Jen, Matt, Jennifer on Zoom today. Are there any on there I can't see? Like that.
Afternoon, everyone. Would you bow your heads? Loving God, creator of all times and places, we thank you for the gift of summertime, the days of light, warmth, and leisure. Thank you for the beauty that surrounds us everywhere we look. The multicolored flowers, the deep blue of the sky, the tranquil service of lakes, the laughter of children at play, people strolling in parks, families gathered around picnic tables, and the more time to spend with families and friends. As we open our eyes and ears to the landscape of nature and people, open our hearts to receive all as a gift. Give us that insight to see you as the divine artist. Help us to realize and appreciate that you are laboring to keep all in existence. Warm our souls with the awareness of your presence. Let all the gifts we enjoyed this summer deepen our awareness of your love so that we may share this with others and enjoy a summertime of recreation. Amen. All right. Could I ask Jane Simsack and Kyle Schrofack to stand, please? Jane has a guest today, Kyle, who is branch manager of the Tech Credit Union. Would everyone please say hello to Kyle? Kyle. Oh, thank you.
If you're at Zoom, white makes me look bigger on the cameras. Keep that in mind. So we have Sergeant at Arms today. Mary Jo. Should be fun. Oh, I do have programs from the Recruit the Troops program. If you'd like a list of all the young men and women who are enlisting, raise your hand. I'll bring you one of these.
Hi, guys. I'm a little bit choked up at the Star Spangled Banner this morning because today is D-Day. So we're talking about the young men and women that enrolled or that enlisted. It's very near and dear to my heart. Today marks the 78th anniversary of D-Day. And this is a special day for many. Sorry, I don't know where this is. I don't really know where it's coming from, but hang with me. Today matters to me in a special, unique way. My grandfather, Frank Woosley, served during World War II in the 82nd Airborne Division 505 Paratroop Infantry Regiment in the United States Army as a first lieutenant. He made 3 paratroop jumps into combat and lost his right eye 5 days later. 5 days after D-Day to cannon shell shrapnel. He received many medals for his courageous service, including the Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Presidential Unit Citation, and Combat Infantry Badge. He also received an American Defense Service Medal, American Companion Medal, World War II Victory Medal, and a European, African, Middle Eastern Theatre Operation Companion Medal with 3 Bronze Stars and a bronze arrow head. My grandfather took me on 2 amazing trips around the world, and my stepmother, Carol, continues to do that today. My oldest missed graduation at Valpo High School to go on a trip to Europe. And today, she is currently in Normandy on the beach where her great-grandfather paratrooped. So it's a very special day 78 years ago for our family and for many. So thanks for letting me share that. It's all good news. Speaking of good news, I think we have some pictures for good news today. Is someone going to help me with that?
So I have good news. My company, his daughters were playing around a park one day, and the little girls ran up and said, "Dad, there's a Rotary rack. We have to take a picture for Grandma." So we have some future Rotarians maybe coming up, so I brought the picture to show you.
One. And where's two?
We want to know if any, you should like,
Yep, I'm gonna.
everybody knows the significance in the name on it. You saw the name? Oh.
We used to give an annual award. We had an environmental committee, which right now I guess is John Pickup. But we had an environmental award from, you can read it here. Philip Adamatia, is that right, John? And every year we would pick, the committee would pick a feature in Valparaiso that somehow contributed to the environment. So that was awarded to us in 2008 for when the redevelopment commission built the Vale Park connector between the post office and the high school.
Any other good news? Hold on, and the Zoomers teach you.
The high school state track meet in Bloomington, in the 400 meter and the 4x4 relay, and she medaled in the 4x4 relay. And the Valpo High School girls 4x8 relay team was actually the state champions. They went for 5 seconds. Wow. Very fun day.
Anybody else? Yes.
So we have chapters all over the room. And I'm sure we have it in Sweden. I know we have it in Sweden. Today is Swedish equivalent of 4th of July. So June 6th is a big day for Swedes. No one is Swedes. I know it's the day, but so I have mixed feelings. But congratulate them and happy birthday.
Well, Jamie, I really enjoyed your tears today because I want to thank my father who stormed the beaches in Normandy so that I could have a charmed life. And it was very special to hear you. So thank you to my dad.
Anybody else?
Want to give props to DBNA for a lovely house for hospice on Saturday. One-time volunteering, our satellite club volunteered for that. That looked like a great turnout, and I hope it was a great fundraiser.
Right. We're just.
Okay, we have a guest also to introduce today. Deb Good will come up and tell us about the young man who's here. And a brief slideshow while they speak.
You're gonna see some of the pictures from Ryla that Josh attended. But I thought I'd share with you real quick the comments that I received from Kyle Cross, who was the district chair for Ryla. He says on Saturday night, you went April 29th to May 1st, that's correct? Okay, so they go Friday morning, they're there all day, Friday, Saturday, and is Jim here? Oh, there he is, okay. And then, so Jim takes them and then Jim picks them up, but he goes extra early so he can sit in and find out what's going on, and then he drives them home. Anyway, so Kyle writes, on Saturday night, the groups had an activity to reflect over the weekend and what each person learned and experienced. I joined a group for this. It was a powerful experience. Evaluation showed kids felt this way too. I had a couple of thoughts that immediately came to me. It had been 3 years since we last held Ryla. The Voices in Facebook. 3 years. In those 3 years, we lost the opportunity to be able to positively impact 350 kids through Ryla. Those lost opportunities could have taught the skills needed to help kids and others around them during the pandemic. However, my thoughts quickly changed during this activity. I became filled with joy and gratitude that we got the opportunity to restart Ryla this year and that we were able to impact 62 kids.
you RILA chairs figured out how to send to RILA this past weekend. The voices and faces of all who were there told a story. The story was that of challenges of the past several months of isolation, fear, depression, uncertainty, anxiety, digital schoolwork, loss of normal youth activities, and people near to them, masking and feeling disconnected. We also got to see and hear the stories of resilience, reborn connection, resilience, respect, discipline, values, goals, seizing opportunities, building confidence, living for the moment, gratitude, and reborn connections. We witnessed these current young leaders leading, marching forward, and taking the lessons they learned to use them for good in our communications and beyond. It was akin to seeing into the future. The future is bright, and the future is filled with hope. So I have the pleasure, a few weeks ago, you met Martin Aguilera, and today I have the pleasure of introducing to you Josh Millard from Washington Township. He's going to share a little bit about his experience.
I'm Josh. I would like to thank the Rotary members who wanted me to go to the RILA and weekend. So in the weekend, we had small groups, which I think this was probably one of my favorite times on the weekend, because we got in the groups a couple times each day, and it was cool to because they had really good leaders there that taught us through different activities, and you had to work as a team, and sometimes they would take away certain parts of communication, so it really taught you how to communicate through different ways to team well. Like they would blindfold you, or they would have you not talk at all, so you had to communicate your emotions or different ways. I thought that was really cool. I know it can help you with group projects or anytime you work with a team. I thought it was really neat, and it was a pretty fantastic trip.
You are representing Valpo Rotary. Well, we have a little gift for you and a little information about our club over the years. Thank you. Okay, can our new inductees come forward, please, with their sponsors? While they're coming, I'll give general announcements. Don't miss the changing of the guard for June 20th, or I will cry. That's my last meeting, my last time, and we'll hand it over to Greg Gutchuk, who will. It's going to do a great job. That location is Valparaiso Country Club. Watch the announcements on Fridays. You can click on there and get your tickets easily, or raise your hand if you're a member of the committee. Find one of these members and they can get tickets for you. Natalie, Ellen, Diane, Mary Jo, Barb. Okay. All righty. First off, we have Miss Amy Wolfe and her sponsor, Miss McKenna. Joan, you still got by Joan?
I do still go by Sean. All right. I was asked to share a bio for Amy. We're excited to welcome her in as a Rotarian officially. And this is Amy Wolfe. She's with the VNA. And we were joking around a little bit. She's been coming to all the leadership sessions we've had here. She's been very active in our Rotary Satellite Club. So we're excited to make it official and put the stamp on it today. So as far as her bio goes, a few things you might not know about Amy Wolfe. She was born and raised in Oak Forest, Illinois. Her degree is from Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, and that is a degree in hospitality. She also has a master's degree in higher education administration from the University of Kansas. All right. Okay, we have presentation. Let's see. Her family had relocated to Northwest Indiana while she was in school. So after she graduated, she came on this way and took her first job as a live-in hall director with Purdue University Northwest in Hammond. Nobody from Purdue University Northwest, all right? There we go. All right, and she started Opportunity Enterprises in December 2016. That's when I met her. She got involved in community. That's when she found out that she loved Valparaiso and put down roots and brought her home here. It's where her and her dog Tank reside. Alba. So happy to have them here. And in December 2021, she was offered her new opportunity with BNA Hospice. So she said, leave an OE, but very excited about all the new stuff with BNA. So we're very happy for her and the new position and officially being a Rotary member. And all the good work she's going to do. She's also instrumental in our satellite club, and she will be stepping in as our new president. So thank you for it.
Well, hello, everyone. Again, it's been a pleasure getting to know a lot of you over the last year through the leadership series, which I want to thank Deb for putting that together. It's an amazing idea, and I really learned a lot. So as McKenna already mentioned, I'm super excited to be coming in as the president of the Rotary Club and to continue to grow that organization. We received a lot of really great feedback about the mixer that we hosted at Elements, and so we're going to be doing that a lot more moving forward, so that the Rotary main club here and the satellite club can really bridge that. So we're super excited. Thank you.
So I always forget the gifts. So at the change of the guard, all new members this year can come receive their gifts for being a new member.
We're counting on you ladies to bring some fresh young ideas to all the rest of us. Mark came to us, he reached out and he's in the area for a short time, but he's excited to be a member of our club. So we appreciated the reach out. Mark is married to Christine Hare for 29 years and has 3 children. Kendra, 25, Michaela, 23, and Eric is 20. Mark resides in Jackson, Wisconsin. Mark has served in executive management for the past 35 years. Mark has served the senior living healthcare field for the past 13 and owns his own consulting business, M4H LTC Consulting and Management. Mark, as an interim executive director for the Valparaiso Senior Village at 74 East Journey Way in Valparaiso. This is what I really like. Mark is also known for putting himself outward during the 2008 downturn. Mark served in Qasr, Iraq, as an invited contractor during the war. Upon returning from Iraq, Mark found himself no different than countless other people, out of work and networking for his next opportunity. Mark took the liberty of putting up a billboard in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The billboard went viral around the world and to many news organizations. The campaign netted 2,000 responses, 80 job offers, and ultimately landed him in the senior living care that he fulfills every day. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. You know, when I was 17 years old, I got invited by a gentleman named Dan Knapp in Neenah, Wisconsin, to a Rotary. And over the years, what I've learned is the art of networking is how to help others with no expectation in return. What a great opportunity to learn about further a seat at the table and be a part of a service organization that continues to give back. So I want to be a part of not only this community, but my understanding is I can be transferred to other communities too and continue to make a difference within Rotary. So thank you.
We're excited. Very happy to have both of you. And next week we have another inductee, Tracy. So be here for that. Okay, our speaker today is our very own Bob Franco, who is our president-elect, which will be 23, 24 year. He's the CEO of Visiting Nurses Association of Northwest Indiana. I am not going to take time on more of his biography because I want him to have time to present his neat presentation today.
Thanks, Deb. Nobody's really interested in my bio anyways. I thought it was interesting that McKenna said that Amy was offered her position at the VNA in January. Amy called me and said, I will start work at the VNA the following Monday. And I said, okay, well, welcome. So she's been there ever since. So we're really glad to have her as part of our team. Mary Jo, Jane, you guys are going to love this presentation today. I'm not going to talk about the VNA. I'm going to talk about veterans. Today, as Mary Jo pointed out, is the 78th anniversary of D-Day, and it's pretty maybe coincidental or serendipity that I'm here today to talk about our Salute to Veterans program that we do. Every Friday at noon in the garden of our hospice center, we do what we call our Salute to Veterans. We pick a veteran either still living or deceased, and we just take a few minutes every Friday at noon and just share their story. We always play taps, and we just keep veterans in the forefront of our minds at all times at the VNA because it's really important to who we are at the VNA and our culture. And so it's also, it's just an awesome thing that we do every Friday that we all look forward to it because we get to hear this awesome story every week. So for the past couple of months, we've been doing the series called, that was started off as Sons of Porter County that were lost during World War II. Well, it ended up being Sons of One Daughter of Porter County that were lost during World War II. And we profiled 13 veterans. I'm going to introduce you to them today. And then we'll just talk a little bit about how we tie all of that story together. So again, we just completed this special series over these 13 people. We used multiple resources to get the information on them. We dove into ancestry.com, yearbook services, yearbook archives, US military databases, newspaper archives. Each profile took between 3 to 6 hours, one took over 10 hours to develop the 10 to 15 minutes of content that we would deliver each Friday at noon. So over the 13 weeks, we met Freddie Affel of Valparaiso, who died in Indonesia. We met Louis Alba of Valpo, who died in the Tyrrhenian Sea in Italy. Paul Biggert of Valpo, who died in the skies over Germany. J. Frank Brunk of Chesterton died in Indonesia. Wallace Gaselke of Montauk, who died in France. Magdalene Kubek, a nurse of Chesterton, who died in Guam. August Joe Long of Valpo died in Marcus Island. John McBride Jr. of Valpo died in the Battle of the Bulge. Connie Minton of Cowes died on Iwo Jima. Robert Franklin Rouge of Valpo died in the Sea of Japan. Lawrence Siddell of Valpo died on Iwo Jima. Charles Smalley of Chesterton died in Montelimar, France, and Milton Yost of Valparaiso also died in France. These stories, they were amazing stories of heroism and bravery. We begin to understand, even if so slightly, the terror they must have felt in the awful situations of their deaths. Air battles of 15,000 feet above enemy territory, running alongside tanks in close battles in century-old towns and villages in Europe, on ships in icy, stormy seas, or aboard Japanese death ships as POWs in the steamy South Pacific. 2 of the 13 that we profiled died in the Battle of Iwo Jima on the same day, and at least 2 took part in the Normandy landings 78 years ago today, and then the one that died in the Battle of the Bulge. So let me introduce you just to a couple of them and tell their quick stories here. And I think that we'll have time to get through these. So Louis Alba of Valpo was 31 years old when he enlisted in the US Army in 1942. He was married and he had 3 young sons at home. He was a painter and sold firewood through the want ads in the Vidette Messenger. He grew up at 152 Napoleon Street, just catty corner to the modern day Central Park Plaza downtown. And then he raised his own family at 506 Union Street near the VU campus, just a couple of doors down from Project Neighbors there. His wife had just given birth to their 3rd son, Ray, when he left for the service. And he would never know that Ray would be called Buddy and would eventually develop what was called blue baby syndrome a year later, and then became the focus of the whole city of Valparaiso for a couple of years as he underwent several open heart surgeries during his time to save his life. While storming across Italy, Louis would witness the mass destruction of cities and villages and see families left with nothing. He wrote home asking his sisters, Gladys and Edna, to gather baby and children's clothes and formula and send it to him so that he can give it to the families that he saw. And so over the Christmas season, they did. But before a single package could get to him, he was dead. He died when his ship hit an underwater mine in the Tyrrhenian Sea in January 1944 on their way to Anzio, Italy, to attack Hitler's winter line. Bill Steinbrecher might be interested to know that a man named Jack Holly survived that sinking. He jumped aboard another ship that needed 3 passes to finally get aligned with the LST 422. The seas were very, very stormy and the ship was just on full fire. And so other ships were having great difficulty coming to rescue people. Jack Holly was finally able to jump to the other ship to safety. And he went on to become the assistant athletic director at Ole Miss. Connie Mitten was from Couts. He was 22 when he enlisted in 1942. The Mitten family were farmers and one of 22 families in Couts who had 2 or more sons enlisted at the same time. Couts. Connie was in the U.S. Navy and aboard an amphibious landing ship, the LST 477, that left Pearl Harbor and took part in battles in the Macon Atoll, Gilbert Island, and the capture of Guam. It was part of Strike Force 58, a long-range quick strike task force commanded by John McCain, grandfather of Vietnam hero Senator McCain. Connie was 20 miles offshore on the LST waiting to attack Iwo Jima on February 15, 1945, when a kamikaze pilot crashed into his ship, killing him and 7 other shipmates instantly. His brother and stepbrother both survived the war. Paul Bigger grew up at 112 Brown Street here in Valpo, and he was a popular student in the band, orchestra, and stamp club. He was also the #1 golfer on the VHS golf team. I heard Doug talking about golf over there. So Paul was the #1 golfer on the team. They were playing at the Valparaiso Country Club way back then too. He joined the United States Air Force at the age of 20 and was a waist gunner on a B-24 Liberator, the Pistol Packin' Mama, which was also the name of a very popular song by the Andrews Sisters during that same time. On February 15th, 1944, he was on a mission with a large squadron leaving Italy to bomb a plane factory deep in German territory. As they crossed into German airspace, they encountered ground fire that was later described as crashing through walls of steel and fire exploding around them. Paul shot down 4 German fighter planes himself on that mission. All told, the Pistol Packin' Mama shot down 16 planes on that single mission, which was then a group record. As they neared the factory, the defenses intensified and Bigger was killed as he battled with a fighter 13,000 feet in the air. The bomber would deploy its entire payload, but it would eventually lose all of its gunners and both engines and limped back across the Italy border before the pilot and remaining crew bailed. The plane was finally found in 1989. We also met Magdalene Kubek of Chesterton. She immigrated to the United States from Austria in 1910 with her mother and little brother as a 2-year-old. They lived above her father's hardware store in Whiting as she grew up and graduated before going to Loyola to study to be a nurse. After graduating, her family moved to Chesterton, and Magdalene did too. She was in the U.S. Nurses Naval Reserve when she was called into action days after Pearl Harbor. She spent most of her time in the war in Seattle and San Diego before being deployed to Guam in 1944. 3 days after her arrival on the island, she was riding in an ambulance on a curvy, wet road when it overturned and she was killed instantly. There's a fountain dedicated to her memory at the $7 shrine property in South Haven that was recently just rediscovered and restored. We tie all 13 of these stories together at Christmas, 1943. By then, the war effort was escalating quickly. Over 9 million people were already enlisted, and the nightly reports from Europe and the Pacific were terrifying. Back home, Americans were rationing rubber, paint, meat, fuel, while car factories were repurposed to build planes, tanks, jeeps, engines, anything else that they needed for the war effort. America didn't produce a single new car for nearly 4 years. Families were relocating from rural America to cities by the drove to be closer to the factories and jobs where women and often children worked. And with that came much civic unrest as race riots broke out in Detroit, Los Angeles, Beaumont, Texas. By Christmas, America needed a reprieve, needed some hope. President Roosevelt knew this and delivered a fireside chat on Christmas Eve, 1943, that he promised, quote, peace and goodwill toward men will be restored at any cost, end quote. those words, any cost, just like rang with me and just had fun with me. Rationing meant that normal turkey and beef dinners were replaced by whatever else was available, and war bonds were exchanged as gifts in many cases. A new song hit the airwaves that year on the radio by Bing Crosby, written from the perspective of a U.S. soldier alone in a bunk thousands of miles away. I'll Be Home for Christmas rocketed to the top of the charts and remains today as a staple, although I think that the meaning of that song is probably has been lost on most. Next time you hear that song, take the time to really listen to the words and think about that. The perspective that song was written, it'll hold a whole new meaning for you. On Christmas Day, 1943, all 13 of the people that you just met, that we just talked about, were deployed, and one was already dead. Freddie Alfeld had already died earlier that year. By Christmas 1944, 7 more would be dead, including Valparaiso's Joe Long, who left for the service at 17 years old and would never spend another Christmas at home. So thanks for taking this brief walk through time and helping us remember and honor some incredibly brave and heroic men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice at a critical point in our history. You can hear all of these stories. They're only about 7 or 8 minutes long on our Best Days podcast on Spotify. I would encourage you to do that. They're just really exceptional stories of some just incredible people. That's all I have. So if anybody has any questions or anything, or any kind of comments or anything that they want to share about this momentous day and about the veterans, we still have a little time.
Who's that?
We do. It's through the VNA, so it's our Best Days podcast, it's called. And then we've been doing our Salute the Veterans special editions every week where we record these stories on there.
Or somebody work with Deb and send us the link to that.
Absolutely. We do that. Yeah, thank you for that. If we have time, I'll tell one more quick story. This one is Robert Franklin Rouge. Now that's a Valpo name. That's a Porter County name. Robert Franklin Rouge was a very popular student at Valpo High School. He enlisted in the service, I think, at 24 years old. He served on the island, and I think this is how you pronounce it. Maybe some of you history buffs have heard it. Like, correct me if this is not right, but Corregidor. And that was a little rock that sat at the mouth of the Manila Bay, that separated the Manila Bay from the Pacific Ocean. And it was heavily contested throughout World War II. It went back and forth between the Japanese and the Americans. And at this particular time, it was stationed by the Americans, and the Japanese wanted it. And it was really up for battle to try to protect Manila. So Robert Franklin Rouge was stationed on that island, and they were just undergoing bombardment by the Japanese for about 45 days, just bombing and bombing and bombing this island, trying to soften it up because they wanted control of it. In the meantime, the United States had gone into Manila and taken all of the gold and silver out of the banks in Manila and was getting it offshore so the Japanese didn't get it. And in fact, they stopped at Corregidor and dumped off tons and tons of gold and silver. In fact, there's over $400 million of silver still on that island that they still haven't found. People are still looking for it, that they got put into these tunnels, and then through the bombing, these tunnels collapsed and nobody knows. There's still over $400 million of silver on that island. They're still looking for it. So the Japanese just pounded and pounded and pounded this island. And then finally in May of 1942, the Americans surrendered. They were just outnumbered. Food was gone. They still had cavalry. Then they had horses. And then as they were running out of food and as horses were killed, they would drag the food into the mess hall. And that's what they were surviving on for those last couple of weeks. So you can imagine how awful the conditions were. Water was being rationed. They really had no fresh water. And eventually they had no choice but to surrender. So Robert Franklin Rouge was taken prisoner and was sent to the Bilibid prison in Manila as a Japanese prisoner of war camp. And he was there for over 2 years. In October of 1944, they were all loaded on a Japanese hell ship as the Americans were starting to seize control again of Manila and that portion of the Pacific. And so the Japanese were evacuating all the prisoners out of there and trying to get them to Tokyo, trying to get them to Japan. And so they had all these ships that came in and took all these prisoners from Bilibid and loaded them on. And he was on the Arasan Maru. And this was an old freighter that they had retrofitted to be, a troop transport. And it was originally built to maybe transport 500 people, but I think they had 1,800 prisoners on this thing and sent them out to sea. The USS Shark saw this convoy going by of these Japanese ships and sunk the Arasan Maru, not knowing that there were 1,800 American prisoners of war on it. Miraculously, everybody got off the ship before it sunk. And the Japanese sent a ship to go hunt down and eventually did sink the Shark, and then went back to where the ship had sunk and rescued the 9 Japanese crewmen and left everybody else to die in the sea. So Robert Franklin Rouge was never recovered, nor was anybody else from that ship. His brother was John Rouge, who went on to serve as a county councilman, auditor, I believe, for a long time in Porter County in some other role. Served Porter County for over 50 years in various roles and was also one of our Meals on Wheels drivers until he was 85 years old. And I'm proud to say that we took care of him and his family at the time of his death, VNA. So we owe that family a great deal of respect and honor too. Yes, sir. Rugi, yes, yes. That's Rugi, yes, thank you. Rugi, thank you. I thought you were going to correct me on corregidor, and I got tripped up on the easy one. Thank you, that's important to know.
First, a disclaimer, I served for 25 years as board of directors of Visiting Nurse Association, but I thank you giving us an example of what differentiates the VNA from many other organizations. Thank you.
Appreciate all you do, and Andy, the board member as well. Thanks for giving me this chance to talk about veterans. This is always awesome to do, and we don't do it enough. Feel free to come join us any Friday at noon out there in the garden of our hospice center. It takes 10 minutes that we go out there, and there's usually not a dry eye by the time we get done. So feel free to join us. The public's welcome. If you have a veteran that you would like us to honor, if you have a grandfather, Mary Jo, come on, let's talk about your grandfather one Friday. That's a great story to come out and tell. We'd love to have you do that. Thank you.
You have like a 2-minute.
2-minute elevator speech for the VNA. You know how much I can talk, and you put a microphone in front of me. It's like putting a piece of cake in front of me as a Batman. We've been here for 53 years. We are one of the last nonprofit hospices standing in all of Indiana. There's over 35 hospices in existence in Northwest Indiana now, and we are one of the last nonprofits standing. We also have 5 service lanes, which most people don't know. We serve over 650 people a day in our hospice programs, palliative care programs, Meals on Wheels program. We serve 250 people a day in our Meals on Wheels program. Here in Porter County, we have a medical alert program. That's the I've fallen and I can't get up button. We go out and install those, do all the troubleshooting and billing and all of those. And then we have our Phoenix Center program, which many people are aware of, which is our grief support program for kids. So all told, again, we're serving about 600 to 650 people a day on about a $7 million budget with 80 staff and just an awesome board of 15 people. We subsidize $1.3 million in care every year to this community for people who cannot afford either their meals or services in hospice or anything. And we do that without any county, state, municipal support. That's purely out of the VNA and our donors and those of you who have supported us for over 53 years. And we will continue to fight to be able to do that and maintain and restore this valuable resource for this community for another 53 years.
How many people could you accommodate on a Friday at noon?
All of it.
60. Really?
It's a big garden.
Field trip idea, where is he? schedule. Thank you so much, Bob, for that wonderful, touching presentation. And for all those of you who have lost loved ones as veterans, our heart goes out to you. Okay, let's stand and close and get ready for next week. We have an awesome panel. Ms. Dawn Kroger arranged for us to have Anthony Contruzzi. He's a 5th generation leader with Centier Bank. And now we've added to that panel Dimitri Olympidis, Gus's son, who is 2nd generation. And our own Rick Urschel will be joining that panel. He's 4th generation leadership in a family business. We're just going to talk about success, sustainability, and succession and legacy. So that should be fun. Okay, any other announcements before we close? Okay, forward test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill, better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And is it fun?
Yeah.
Amy, we need your picture of it and the.
No.